Hi, it's me, Jacqueline. Welcome to my channel. If you are new to the channel, then please subscribe to my channel and join me at Patreon. Link in the description. The night before the summit, I found myself alone in the venue's main hall, standing on the stage and looking out at the rows of empty chairs. Tomorrow, those seats would be filled with people whose lives had intersected with mine in ways I was still coming to understand. Shirley found me there, her footsteps echoing in the quiet space. "Nervous?" she asked, sitting down beside me. "A little," I admitted. "It's just a lot." She nodded. "It is. But you've faced a lot before, and look where it's brought you." Her words stayed with me as I prepared for the next day. The summit was a resounding success. The workshops were packed, the panel discussions were lively, and the storytelling sessions brought laughter and tears in equal measure. Seeing Sarah and Jamie take the stage to share their journeys was a proud moment for me, a reminder of how far we'd all come. During my keynote address, I spoke about the power of community and the importance of finding light in even the darkest places. "We are all connected," I said. "And together, we can create a world where no one feels alone." As I stepped off the stage to a standing ovation, I felt an overwhelming sense of fulfillment. This wasn't just a movement, it was a family. That evening, as we wrapped up the summit with a closing ceremony, Sarah approached me, her eyes bright with excitement. "Lexi," she said, "I've been thinking. What if we started a youth council for the light within? A way for people like me to help shape the future of the platform." The idea was brilliant, and I told her so. By the end of the night, we'd already begun brainstorming how to make it happen. The success of the Light Within Summit rippled far beyond what any of us had anticipated. Social media buzzed with posts and photos from the event, participants sharing their personal stories alongside heartfelt reflections on the weekend. The hashtag Light Within Family began trending, and it became clear that what we'd created wasn't just a movement, it was a phenomenon. Sarah's idea for a youth council took shape quickly. Within weeks, applications poured in from teens across the country, eager to be part of shaping the future of the light within. Sarah and Jamie volunteered to co-chair the council, their excitement palpable as they worked to review submissions and assemble a diverse group of young leaders. "I never thought I'd be in a position like this," Sarah said one afternoon during a planning session. "It feels surreal." "You've earned it," I told her, smiling. "And you're going to do amazing things." As the council came together, it became clear that their energy and ideas were exactly what the platform needed. They proposed new initiatives, peer mentorship programs, regional meetups, even a podcast to share stories from the community. Meanwhile, I focused on completing the final edits for my book, which was set to release in a matter of months. The process had been exhausting but rewarding, each chapter a reflection of the journey that had brought me to this point. But just as it seemed like everything was falling into place, a new challenge emerged. One morning, Shirley called me into the living room, her face unusually serious. "We've got a situation," she said, handing me her tablet. The screen displayed an article from a prominent news outlet. The headline read, "The Rise and Risks of Social Movements. Are platforms like the Light Within doing more harm than good?" My heart sank as I read the article. While it didn't directly attack the light within, it raised questions about the sustainability of grassroots organizations and the potential for unintended consequences, such as burnout among leaders or the spread of misinformation. "It's not an outright hit piece," Shirley said, her voice measured. "But it plants seeds of doubt." Stephen joined us, his laptop open to another page. "And it's already sparking debate online," he said, scrolling through a thread of comments ranging from supportive to skeptical to outright hostile. I felt a familiar pang of anxiety creeping in, but I pushed it down. "What do we do?" I asked. "We address it head-on," Shirley said. "But carefully. This isn't like dealing with trolls or smear campaigns. It's a legitimate critique, and we need to respond with thoughtfulness." Over the next few days, we worked together to craft a public statement. Dana helped me write a blog post addressing the concerns raised in the article while highlighting the measures we'd already put in place to ensure the platform's sustainability and credibility. "Movements like the Light Within thrive because of the people who believe in them," I wrote. We're not perfect, but we're committed to learning, growing, and building something that lasts. Your voices are what make this possible, and we'll never stop listening." The post went live alongside an announcement of a new initiative, the formation of an advisory board composed of mental health professionals, educators, and community leaders to guide the platform's development and ensure its long-term impact. The response was overwhelmingly positive. Comments flooded in, praising our transparency and commitment to improvement. Even some of the skeptics acknowledged the steps we were taking. As the dust settled, I realized that the experience had been a turning point, not just for the light within, but for me as a leader. It was a reminder that progress wasn't linear and that even the most well-intentioned efforts could face criticism. What mattered was how we responded. That evening, as I sat in my room reflecting on the whirlwind of the past few weeks, I received a text from Jamie. "We've got this, Lexi. Together, we can handle anything." Their words brought a smile to my face. They were right. The weeks following the release of our public statement and the announcement of the advisory board marked a new phase for the light within. The platform's growth continued, but now it felt more stable, more purposeful. The advisory board brought expertise and guidance that reassured not only the community, but also me. For the first time, I felt like we had a solid foundation for the future. The Youth Council, led by Sarah and Jamie, was thriving as well. Their energy and creativity were infectious, and their initiatives, like the new peer mentorship program and podcast, were resonating deeply with the community. Listening to the first few episodes of the podcast, I found myself tearing up. Hearing members share their stories in their own voices was powerful in a way I hadn't fully anticipated. "It's amazing, isn't it?" Jamie said during one of our check-ins. "How sharing your story can make you feel less alone." "It really is," I agreed. Amid this momentum, my book was finally published. The release day was surreal. I spent the morning signing copies at a local bookstore, overwhelmed by the turnout. Parents brought their kids, teachers came to show their support, and even strangers who'd followed my journey online stopped by to thank me. "You've changed the way I see things," one man said, holding his copy of the book tightly. "Not just about you, but about myself." His words stayed with me as the day unfolded. That evening, Shirley and Stephen hosted a small gathering to celebrate, filling our living room with the people who'd been part of my journey: Lydia, Richard, Dana, Sarah, Jamie, and many others. As I stood in front of them, holding a copy of the book in my hands, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. "This book wouldn't exist without all of you," I said. "Your support, your stories, your belief in this work, it's what keeps me going." "Thank you." The celebration was short-lived, however, as a new challenge loomed on the horizon. 2 days after the book launch, Stephen called a meeting in the kitchen. His expression was serious, and I knew immediately that something was wrong. "We've uncovered a potential breach," he said, setting his laptop on the table. "What kind of breach?" Shirley asked, her voice sharp. "It looks like someone tried to access the personal information of the Light Within members," he explained. "We caught it early, and no data was compromised, but it's a serious attempt." My stomach dropped. The idea of someone targeting the platform's members, people who had trusted us with their stories, was terrifying. "Who would do this?" I asked. "We don't know yet," Stephen said, "but we're looking into it. In the meantime, we need to tighten security and reassure the community." The next few days were a flurry of activity. We brought in cybersecurity experts to fortify the platform and launched a comprehensive review of our systems. I worked with Shirley and Dana to draft a message to the community, explaining what had happened and the steps we were taking to protect them. "This is going to test us," Shirley said as we reviewed the message. "But it's also an opportunity to show our members that we take their trust seriously." The response from the community was overwhelmingly supportive. Messages poured in, not of fear or anger, but of encouragement and solidarity. One member wrote, "We trust you, Lexi. Thank you for always putting us first." The breach investigation revealed that the attempt hadn't been random. The perpetrator was a disgruntled former associate of Grayson, someone who had been involved in his earlier campaigns against me. They had acted independently, but their motivations were clear: to undermine the platform by attacking its core, our community. When the investigation concluded, I felt a mix of relief and anger. Relief that we had caught the breach before any harm was done, and anger that the platform, which had become a lifeline for so many, was still being targeted. That evening, as I sat with Shirley and Stephen, I voiced my frustration. Why can't they just leave us alone? Because what you're doing matters, Shirley said simply. And when you stand for something, you'll always face resistance. But that doesn't mean you stop. Her words stayed with me as we moved forward, stronger than ever. The fallout from the attempted data breach left us all shaken, but more determined than ever to safeguard what we had built. The resilience of the community was both humbling and inspiring, and their unwavering support reminded me that our mission was bigger than any single challenge. In the days that followed, the light within doubled down on its commitment to transparency and security. The advisory board played a crucial role, guiding us through a comprehensive overhaul of our systems. New safeguards were implemented, and we launched a series of workshops to educate our members about online safety and digital privacy. We're turning this into a teachable moment, Sarah said during a youth council meeting, her determination palpable. And showing everyone that we're stronger together, Jamie added. Their leadership was inspiring, and it reminded me why empowering others had always been at the heart of the light within. Meanwhile, my book continued to gain traction. Reviews poured in, and invitations to speak at events across the country kept my schedule packed. Each appearance felt like an opportunity to amplify the voices of the community, to share not just my story, but the collective journey of everyone who had found light within themselves. Please subscribe for the next part and visit my Patreon page for early access.